Hi everyone, my name is Sally Fowler. I'm the owner and trainer for Disabled Advantage. In this Patreon post, I will be answering the question, what tests does my dog need to take to be a real service dog? I'll be talking about the different types of tests that are available for you and your service dog team to take to verify your readiness for public access work and working as a service dog team. I'll also be talking about a test you may not be as familiar with called the public access test, and talking a little bit more in depth about why it doesn't just come down to a test that determines if a dog and a team are a real service dog team or not. Okay, first up, there are 3 tests that most people might have heard of. The first of those tests is something called the AKC Canine Good Citizen. This is abbreviated to be called CGC. AKC represents American Kennel Club. The American Kennel Club developed 3 tests that dog owners can take to test a dog's ability to focus on their handler, do basic obedience, exist in a city environment, and be basically good citizens. It is aptly named. There are 3 tests, and they each build on skills learned in the previous test. And when you go to the AKC website, you can learn more about these tests, and I'll include it with this Patreon post. And they usually have classes to help you prepare for taking the test. You don't have to take the classes in order to take the test, but they can help you prepare and give you a little bit of a feel of what to expect during the test. These are something that you can take if you're training on your own, if you're training with a trainer, or if you've already trained your dog but would like to have a certificate that helps affirm for you that you did a good job, you met certain criteria, and that your service dog has been tested against various standardized challenges. Keep in mind though, passing any of these tests does not necessarily mean that your dog is a service dog. These are not service dog guarantee tests. So the first one is called the AKC Canine Good Citizen, also called the CGC for short. This is a basic 10-skill test for any dog and owner that covers basic manners, the ability to hold, sit, or down for short periods, leash handling skills, that's your ability to hold the leash securely but loosely, and navigate using it to guide your dog through various things, and the ability for you and your dog to work together in unison without problems. It's a very simple test, but it is a good test of you took basic obedience, let's see where we're at as far as working together, focusing on me, and things like that. This is typically done at a dog training center or a testing facility. Next up is the AKC Community Canine or Canine Good Citizen Advanced, also called the CGCA for short. This one builds on skills you were tested on in the CGC, but instead of being tested in a classroom setting, you and the evaluator go to a public area like a park, a dog show, or outside a building to evaluate you and your dog's skills together with more real-world distractions. So being able to focus around you with road traffic or other dogs nearby and things like that. The AKC Urban Canine Good Citizen, also called CGCU, is one that is most similar to another test called the Public Access Test, which I'll talk about in a little bit. The CGCU is much more focus towards working dogs who need to have skills like being able to focus in a city setting, riding on an elevator, walking past other dogs and people, manners on a leash, and riding on transportation. So the skills being tested here are a little bit more challenging than the skills tested in the CGCA and still yet the skills in the CGC. But in order to take the CGCU, you have to have passed the CGC. I know several teams who make an effort to do all three of those tests as their own personal proof that their dog is ready to be a service dog, but also so that if their status as a service dog is ever challenged, they can point to all of those and also refer back to all of the training that they've done with their service dog and help bolster their argument that they do indeed have a real service dog. However, as I said before, taking any of these tests or taking all of these tests does not mean your dog is definitely a service dog. Just being able to pass these tests means that you can pass these tests. It doesn't necessarily mean that your dog is ready to work as a service dog. It doesn't mean that they've learned tasks to work as a service dog. It doesn't automatically grant you the right to take your dog in public as a service dog. What makes a real service dog is 1, you have to be disabled. 2, you have to need the assistance of a service dog for your disability. 3, your service dog has to have had bare minimum of 6 months, 1 to 2 years is way better, of specialized, rigorous training that covers obedience, socialization, manners, public access etiquette, and task training for the purpose of being a service dog for you. That's what makes a service dog. Not a test, not a piece of paper, not a vest you got online for $80. Circling back to the CGC tests, do you have to take those and do you have to pass those for service dog training? No, you don't. There are some programs and private trainers that encourage handlers to take one or all of these tests because it gives you a chance to work on specific skills your team will either need to perform in public or might have to perform in public. And it helps you go into your more advanced training knowing that your team has what it takes to make it. If your trainer has a thorough program, however, these skills will get learned and tested throughout the course of your training and without you needing to pay for extra classes on the side and $20 for a special certificate. However, the tests may still be worth looking into and they may still have benefit if your trainer doesn't have access to very many resources, doesn't offer group lessons, and doesn't have a way for you to meet up with other dog owner teams to train alongside, because these tests and the classes do give you an opportunity to work around multiple different dogs and friendly strangers who are willing to participate in your dog's training. It's worth noting that many businesses that are dog friendly are aware of these certificates and might ask if your dog passed one of the tests as a measure of if they should permit your dog to enter or not. If your dog is a full service dog and you have gone through appropriate training to train your dog to be a service dog, public locations cannot bar you on the basis of you having not taken one of the AKC tests. All they are allowed to ask you is if it is a service animal required by a disability and what work it has been trained to perform. That's it. They cannot ask for a test certificate. I have learned, though, that sometimes homeowners insurance will give discounts to dogs who have passed this test, so it's something worth investigating for yourself. And I do understand the pride that comes in having a certificate on your wall or in your dog's training binder that you can look back at and say, yeah, we did that. We worked hard. We got it accomplished. So if you're doing it for that purpose, absolutely, go ahead. The public access test is a test that uniformly looks at various special skills a service dog team needs to be able to handle or should be able to handle out in public, along with public distractions and the ability for a service dog to work with their disabled handler and the disabled handler to be able to direct and guide their service dog and manage their service dog around public settings that might be stressful or difficult, like someone coming up to inquire about the dog's validity as a service dog. The public access test is typically something that's reserved to be given by a service dog program or a service dog trainer. Taking this test does not certify your dog as a service dog. Taking the public access test does not register your dog as a service dog. Using the model of the IAADP public access certification test does not mean that your service dog is a service dog. What it means is that you and your dog passed a test that was designed for service dog teams. And if you and your dog have completed necessary training, you meet the minimum standards laid out by the IAADP for service dog training and etiquette, that your team is probably good to go as a service dog team. Again, no one is registering you, no one is certifying you, no one is giving you a license, no one is 100% guaranteeing that your dog is a perfect, 100% safe service dog. It comes down to personal responsibility and honesty. And unfortunately, I think that's how a lot of people are trying to game the system, is that we've developed a way, courtesy of the Department of Justice, for individuals to train their own service animals. And personally, I think that's a great thing because that's what I did. But the reason the DOJ wanted to leave the door open for owners to train their own service dog was because imposing a registration or imposing a unified test or imposing a specific means of obtaining a service dog would have greatly reduced the availability of service dogs to the people who need them. Because not everybody can afford to work with a program. Not everybody can find a program. Not everybody has access to a program, depending on their area in the country. And not every disability is served by a program, like my own. And so if we had a unified structured system for service dogs, a lot of people who can only benefit from the assistance of a service dog would go without that assistance. And there would be a great sense of inequality as far as service dogs go. Now, this does open the door for problems because you get people who aren't honest and who aren't hardworking and who just want to game the system. And each time somebody games the system, they're making it harder and harder for the system to keep letting owner trainers be a thing. And other countries have a much stricter system in place for service dogs, and that includes testing. But there's a lot of people in other countries who their lives would be totally different. Their quality of life would be so much better if they could work with a service dog, but they don't meet the qualifications, or they don't have the resources, or they're too far away, or this, that, and the other. And because they can't train their own dog, they don't have assistance. And yeah, there's not people, sneaking a unruly ESA into a movie theater, but you also have people who really need help who are going without it. So there's benefits and there's definite drawbacks. A lot of programs give a test to their dogs and their handlers, and then they ask that you repeat the test every year or every 3 years as a check-in. And that's a good way of assuring that teams are on the right track, that problems haven't started. And if problems have started, well, let's work on that. This helps keep service dog teams accountable. When you owner train, there's less accountability. So if you're dedicated to your team, it's a good idea to maybe sign up to take the CGC tests every year or take the CGC classes every now and then. So I'd never been asked this question before. And this year I was at a dog festival and running a booth about Disabled Advantage. And someone came up to me and asked me what test they could take that would make their dog a service dog. And the way they said it was the same tone of voice and inflection that you would use to ask, where do you shelve the milk? Like you're at a grocery store. What simple answer can I get to solve my problem? And that's what annoyed me more so than the actual question. And when I asked for further detail, it was met with, oh, well, my dog's really old, but I like them and I'd like to keep taking them everywhere with me. And yeah, that came through when you asked me that question. If you're a team who's been training and you want to take a test to affirm that you've done the right things and your team is ready, I support you 100%. If you're looking for a test to take as a shortcut so that you don't have to actually train your dog and as a way to shove a certificate in people's faces as, look, my dog's allowed to be here, they passed this test, I'm very annoyed with you. That is not the purpose of any of these tests. These tests are for honest, ethical owners and trainers who are trying to do their best. In conclusion, there is no one test that proves your dog is a service dog. There are tests that back up and support your training. And that's what I've discussed here. But none of these tests guarantee your dog is a service dog. None of these tests certify or register your dog as a service dog with the city, the state, the federal government. These tests are here to help you. They're here to support you. They're here to point out where you need to work on or what you're doing really well with. They are not here to serve as a shortcut or to help you take your dog anywhere that you want to take them. If you have any questions, leave a comment or send me a message. Thank you for listening.